My name is Emily, and this is a story I never thought I'd have to tell. It's a story about love, betrayal, and choices that tore apart everything I thought I knew about family. Growing up, my sister Clara and I were inseparable. She was older, wiser, and the one person I trusted above anyone else. Clara was my role model, beautiful, intelligent, and kind. When she met her husband, James, I was thrilled for her. James seemed perfect for Clara, charming, successful, and completely devoted to her. Or so I thought. It all started a few months ago, when Clara invited me to stay with her and James for the summer. I had just finished a rough semester at university, and a change of scenery sounded like the perfect way to reset. Clara's home was warm and welcoming, and I felt grateful to be there. James was attentive and polite, always making sure I felt comfortable. At first, everything seemed normal, even idyllic. But as the weeks passed, I began to notice subtle shifts in James' behavior. The way his gaze lingered on me a little too long, the compliments that felt slightly too personal. I brushed it off, telling myself I was imagining things. After all, this was my sister's husband. One evening, Clara was called away for a work trip, leaving James and me alone in the house. I remember the unease I felt as she packed her bags, though I couldn't quite place why. That night, as I sat in the living room reading, James joined me. He seemed unusually nervous, fidgeting with the edge of his shirt as he tried to make conversation. "You're really something, Emily," he said suddenly, his voice softer than usual. I looked up, startled. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "You're smart, beautiful, anyone would be lucky to have you," he continued. My stomach churned. This wasn't a compliment from a brother-in-law, it was something else entirely. I laughed awkwardly, hoping to diffuse the tension. "Thank you, James," I said, my voice trembling slightly. I tried to change the subject, but he didn't take the hint. Instead, he leaned closer, his eyes locking onto mine. "Emily," he said, "I need to tell you something." My heart pounded in my chest as he spoke the words I never expected to hear. "I think I'm in love with you." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The air seemed to leave the room, and all I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat. "What?" I whispered, barely able to form the word. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, "but I can't keep this to myself anymore. Clara and we've been distant for a while now. And you make me feel alive again." His words felt like a slap in the face. How could he say this to me, knowing how much I loved my sister? I stood up, shaking. "James, stop. This isn't right," I said firmly. But he reached for my hand, desperation in his eyes. "Please, Emily. I know this is wrong, but I can't help how I feel. Just give me a chance." I pulled my hand away, disgusted. "You're married to my sister," I said, my voice breaking. "This can't happen." I left the room, my mind spinning. What was I supposed to do? Tell Clara? Pretend this never happened? No matter what I chose, the consequences would be devastating. The next morning, I avoided James as much as possible. My thoughts were a whirlwind of guilt and anger. How dare he put me in this position? I decided to call my best friend, Anna, for advice. As I poured out the details of what had happened, she was as shocked as I was. "You need to tell Clara," she said firmly. "She deserves to know." But the thought of confronting my sister made my stomach turn. How could I break her heart like this? Days turned into weeks, and I couldn't bring myself to say anything. Clara returned from her trip, her face lighting up when she saw me. "How is everything?" she asked cheerfully. "Fine. I lied, forcing a smile. But James's behavior didn't stop. He found excuses to be near me, his touches lingering a moment too long, his words filled with hidden meaning. I felt trapped, unable to escape the tension that now filled the house. Then came the breaking point. One evening, while Clara was out with friends, James cornered me in the kitchen. "Emily, I need to know how you feel," he said, his voice low and urgent. "Do you feel the same way about me?" His words sent a wave of anger crashing over me. "No, James. I don't. I never will," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "You need to stop this. If you love Clara, you'll fight for your marriage and leave me alone." He looked at me, his expression a mix of pain and frustration. "I can't just turn off my feelings, Emily," he said. But I had made my decision. I couldn't let this go on. That night, I sat Clara down and told her everything. As the words left my mouth, her face went pale, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Are you serious?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "I'm so sorry, Clara," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I didn't want to hurt you, but you needed to know." Her reaction was a mix of anger, heartbreak, and betrayal. "How could he do this?" she cried, her voice breaking. "How could he ruin everything we've built?" I held her as she sobbed, wishing I could take away her pain. The days that followed were a blur of confrontations and difficult conversations. Clara confronted James, demanding answers. He tried to apologize, claiming he had made a mistake, but the damage was done. Their marriage was never the same. As for me, I decided to leave. Staying in that house, in that situation, was too much to bear. I moved back home, hoping to find some sense of normalcy again. Clara and I stayed in touch, but our relationship was strained. The bond we once shared had been irreparably damaged by James's actions. Months later, Clara called me. "I've decided to leave him," she said, her voice steady. "I deserve better than this." I felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief that she was choosing herself, and sadness for everything we had lost. Today, Clara is rebuilding her life, and I'm doing the same. This experience taught me the importance of honesty, boundaries, and self-respect. It also showed me that sometimes the people we trust the most can betray us in ways we never imagined. But I've also learned that there's strength in facing the truth, even when it's painful. Clara and I continue to rebuild our bond, slowly but surely. While we both carry the scars of this betrayal, we are determined not to let it define us. Life moves forward, and so do we. If you've ever faced a situation where trust was broken, know that you're not alone. Share this story with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories of resilience, hope, and self-discovery. Together, we can find the strength to move forward.